Welcome to De-Stress Your Business, the podcast where we show you how to get incredible results in your business without constant stress. I'm Alexis Kingsbury, a serial entrepreneur and founder at AirManual, and I'm joined by my co-founder and co-host, Paddy Mann. Hello, Paddy.
I was about to say good morning, but we're recording in the afternoon. I'll go with hello. Hello.
Hello. So right now, everyone seems to be talking about artificial intelligence and particularly ChatGPT on social media. But why? What is ChatGPT? And is this really something that could help you and your business? Or is it all just hype that will do little more than distract employees? These are questions that we've been asking ourselves over recent weeks, and we can now say confidently that this is not something that you can ignore. It's not just a passing fad, it has real implications for almost every business. As a business leader, the first step you need to take is to educate yourself so that you can start to consider and evaluate the specific business opportunities and risks for your team. So on today's episode, we're going to help to bring you up to speed. So Paddy, let's start with, why is everyone talking about artificial intelligence and ChatGPT right now, and with the additional questions of, and should other people care?
Great questions. I certainly came back to my own social media feed on LinkedIn, where I'm following a lot of business owners, a lot of media and marketing professionals. And there was a huge uptick from an occasional, few posts about this and people interested and so on, to everyone is talking about it in these circles. So there's a huge amount of people that still haven't come across it, don't know what these terms mean, but in certain circles, there's a huge amount of buzz, to the point where it's, a daily swamp of new posts telling me exactly what I need to be doing with it. So, as you said, we've taken a look, and what's become really apparent is that where before these technologies, essentially they were really interesting, they were pretty cool, they were something you would go on and show other people in the team and go, wow, this is amazing, look what it can do. They weren't necessarily what I'd say was business ready. They wouldn't necessarily help us to solve our business problems any quicker. So while it's all nice and shiny and impressive, frankly, as a busy business leader, the good question is, why care? It is frankly noise. But that changed, and the tool that has changed that more than any before it is ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, I don't know why they called it this. Obviously, it's got a technical name, but the branding could have been better. ChatGPT is a chatbot which you can use to ask questions and get answers that are actually really useful. I mean, I think most of us have come across chatbots over the last couple of years. There's a lot of support tools that have tried to build them in, and have tried to give you, helpful answers. But more often than not, to be honest, they are not better than using a search tool on the help site. They're annoying and clunky. People get frustrated that they're not talking to a real person who can actually help them. This is different. The way that you ask it questions and get really valuable answers based on it having basically reviewed and revised information off the whole internet, it's actually jaw-dropping when you first use it. And there are loads and loads of business cases where you can be using it as a leader, as someone on your marketing team, on finance team, or sales team. It can solve lots of little problems that I've been having up to now, working and collaborating with other team members. And in a moment, I think we'll come on to some of those ways. In so many places, it's improving on what was there before, and in many places, it's introduced entirely new ways of even approaching a problem that you wouldn't have thought of until you had to play with the tool.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's, as you say, it's tempting, I think, to, as you say, look at a social media feed and go, oh, everyone's already talking about this and so on. And yet I think that, of course, the algorithms, the AI out there, to some extent, serve stuff that it thinks you're likely to read and care about and so on. And I think that some of us get served more of that content than others. I think there is a great number of business owners who have heard of AI and had those terrible experiences as you described, whether it's chatbots or whatever. If I think back to some of the experiences I've had or the news articles I've seen about, oh, look at this amazing piece of AI that means that nearly people think that it's, a human, but not really. And also actually this weird conversation it's had is very embarrassing and isn't it funny? And I think that as a result, I think it's not it's not an odd thing that when we look at things like those stories, we kind of just write them off as this isn't going to help me. But I think, as you say, it has changed massively with some leaps forward, both with ChatGPT, but some other tools as well that are sufficiently sophisticated that they can have business impact. So let's talk about specific examples. So what can ChatGPT actually do?
Yeah, so I say the best way to really experience this is to actually go and use it yourself. But I'll give you an example of how it could work. So what you can do is ask a question as you would actually ask a question to someone else. So you can ask it to do something for you. So you could say, create an outline of a presentation about how processes can improve business performance. And it will go away. The way it does it kind of animates it in a way that it makes you think it's thinking. And it will come back with an actual really good quality outline of a presentation. It might not be the exact presentation that I would use or that I would come up with after spending an hour thinking about it, iterating, putting in my own thought leadership, etc. But to take you from a completely blank slate to something which is a great format, and then you can start, modifying and giving feedback and thinking, okay, how do I tweak this? That's so much easier than starting that blank slate. It's a really, really powerful tool as a starting point. But the best bit is that it's not just about asking that first question, because you can then ask a follow-up question. So you can then say, look, okay, I've got this outline. Turn it into a presentation. Turn this presentation into 5 posts for my LinkedIn feed. Mm-hmm. And it'll take the content that it had before and go, okay, you want 5 social posts. Here they go. I know what a social post looks like. I know what best practices are for having a hook, having a body, having tags on the bottom. It will turn into the format you're after. But then you might look at it and go, well, these social posts, they're good, but they're not quite how I would write them for my company. The tone of voice isn't right. They're a bit too long, feels a bit stuffy, whatever. But you can then follow up again and again and again to get it how you want. You can say, can you make it more casual? Can you make them post more concise? Can you use better hooks? I've literally used the prompt, can you make it better? And it did. I have no idea why it didn't give me the better one first. But it actually did. It went away, gave it better. I then look at it and go, where are the line breaks? Can you add line breaks? Yes. And it goes away and does that. And it's like this. Now, This is just one kind of tiny example here. But my process before, I'm someone who enjoy coming up with the thought leadership, the creative bit of this is our kind of view of the world. And having the outline, it definitely helps me. It might prevent a bit back and forth of Alexis kind of getting other people's views. That's really helpful. But iterating on that content with my team can often be really painful. Like they do a good job given what they're given, but I will often have to give quite a bit of feedback about, okay, this copy isn't quite right, the tone of voice isn't quite right. You've made it too much about AirManual rather than around our customer. And I'll tell you what, ChatGPT did exactly that. And I said, can you make it less about AirManual? And he did. I say he, I don't know. It could be a she. I don't know what it is. But the point is, it's instant, and it removes all that back and forth, which feels tedious, and like the team feels, man, this is uncomfortable, and so on. And it could be that I don't necessarily need to do the back and forth. It's that they could do it themselves. There's so many different options, but it really streamlines the whole process. And what I also hate is taking one idea and turning it into 20 different formats. I love doing the creative stuff. I hate having to rewrite it 20 times, particularly when we think about, okay, I want Alexis to be able to present this as an expert. I want the brand to be able to present this. And to essentially go, can I get 5 different versions of this? And then I want to present it slightly differently when it's coming from Alexa or whatever. It's incredible, and it removes a lot of blockers that really slow down the creative experience, that really make it very, very difficult for certain individuals and certain teams to do well. So in just this one area, which is kind of around a marketing example, where I'm thinking about presentation and social, it's a game changer that could actually really revolutionize how we approach it, how much content we can get out, whether or not we need to hire as many people, what their job will be, and so on. So as I noted at the start, the marketers are very excited right now.
Yeah, indeed, and some equally terrified, right? I think that we'll come on to some of the issues and risks and so on, perhaps in a subsequent episode. But it can be absolutely groundbreaking and life changing for people, and so you want to be the right side of this, right? In terms of the understanding the opportunity and understand what it could do. I think I really love the example that you shared, and I think the iteration is key. You know, when you described, and it goes away and it comes back with the answer, we're talking seconds, like 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds that it's coming back with that. And so your speed of iteration is so high. Because I agree, I really enjoy our discussions about, you know, what are the best ways in which a business can implement process in its business. How can it make sure that it's more likely to be successful? That is difficult thinking, and we're not just looking for the regurgitated blog articles. You know, you could ask ChatGPT, how do I make my business process project successful? And it'll talk about things like stakeholder management and how to manage your project and how to communicate and so on. And those things are true, but they are conventional wisdom. What we hopefully add is where we go, yeah, but why doesn't that always get the result? Or why is that hard? And actually, for a lot of businesses, you know, is there a quicker way? And that's the stuff that hasn't been written is what it's difficult to produce. But I think the iteration, particularly where, as you say, when you've got the thought leadership already, where you've got the structure for a presentation that you deliver, or even we actually decided not to use it as a podcast episode, but when originally looking at AI, I had an idea around what if I was to interview ChatGPT around this topic and use its own algorithms to produce the content, which is one of the reasons why I think, Paddy, you mention it as a he, because it described itself in its own intro as a he throughout. And I think that what was interesting there is, firstly, he was able to create the intro, to create the questions that I should ask, to create the answers to all of those questions, to create the summary of the episode and what was covered, and create the tweets and everything. But what was also interesting is that the reason we decided not to use it as an episode is because we felt like it wasn't that it was clunky, but it was it lacked some of the passion, the examples, the insight to really turn it into an episode that felt like it would get to the nub of what we're really talking about. It felt very much like reading the manual on it, as it were, or reading some okay blog article. Now, it's possible that with iteration and saying, you know, now give me a punchier answer or a funnier answer, or whatever, you could get there. But I think that sort of those sorts of challenges kind of highlight that it's not sufficient on its own, right? It's not like, suddenly now that AI is here, all of the other work doesn't need to happen at all. So I've kind of alluded to it there, but talk us through, what are some of the limitations of the technology here?
Well, yeah, you definitely alluded to one of the big ones, and some people will look at this and go, wait a minute, it can create the outline. It can, honestly, you don't even have to say, give me an outline. You can say, give me an entire blog article, SEO optimized for these terms, and it will. What's lacking is the challenge, the bits where you go against conventional wisdom, where you add your own insights, your own thought leadership as a leader, as a business. And that's not, unique actually to ChatGPT. It's the same reason that why, as a small business owner, co-founder, you need to be heavily involved in your marketing so that you can give your expert view in the world. It doesn't work in most cases to bring in someone who's junior at marketing and basically, give them some general themes and get them to go off, because they can go off and create a load of content, and it might help with some of the SEO, but it's not going to position your business as a leader. It's going to have very, very limited impact compared to what you can do when you present your own unique view of the world, make it clear why you are the expert that your customers want to deal with. And so when I listened to the conversation that you had with ChatGPT, you're going to go, well, the answers are good and rational, and it makes sense, but I disagree with a couple of bits of the advice. And I think it's kind of foundational. You ask ChatGPT, how should we be using AI? And it gave some examples of where you could use AI, but I'd say that's bad advice for a small business owner today. Like those tools that you've just recommended, yes, they exist, but they're not ready. Some of the tools are, but those ones aren't. And it's that little insight that I have, which is why my customers value listening to me, working with me so much. I get the same experience, if I delegate this or outsource it too far, it needs that additional insights. Now, if instead of trying to get it to completely do the end-to-end process, you use it as a tool that can augment your process, then you're unleashing what it can do best. And that's really turbocharging your creative process. So it's not something that will replace your marketing team or your creatives. It's something that will help them to move faster, to create more output, to do it in different ways. It will improve the collaboration process by removing certain steps. What I love is that I can now create a resource, like we're now working on marketing campaigns where we create an ebook, which is kind of a central resource and a big bit of thought leadership. But now to repurpose that into many different formats, including social posts, will be so much quicker, because I can actually you can literally copy paste your entire ebook or whatever, and then get it to turn it into different formats. And that's really, really powerful. And that's definitely going to help, because frankly, I wouldn't do that. And even when we're hiring marketing people to help, there's a limit to how far they'll be able to go. And I know now that we can do a lot more.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that point around augmenting and using it in that way, I think is crucial. I think that you've got to have the polishing, in fact, it's topping and tailing, really. You've got to make sure that the inputs are good, and then you've got to make sure that at the end you're doing the checks and the reviews and the polishing of whatever it is, and not fully relying on it, because it does have those sorts of limitations. A nice example of doing this. So last week we had one of our workshops with customers that go through like our accelerator package that where we kind of run some sessions, and one of the processes that we're helping them to map was for editing podcasts, because it was going really well, loads and loads of downloads, they were getting sponsors, but they were limited on how many episodes they could do, because it would take so long for them to edit the episode. And they wanted to outsource it, but because it was taking them so long, there was worries about the cost of then outsourcing it and so on. And so what we did was we started off by getting the high-level steps. What are all the high-level steps that you need to do when you're editing this podcast? So, start by listening to it all the way through. Then you need to, identify what you're going to remove and so on, and go through these steps. And then we looked at, okay, we've got the high-level steps so that this could be handed over to someone. But before we do, let's see if we can make this efficient in a few different ways. So let's start by looking at where's most of your time being taken, and then we dived into that and said, okay, how can we make that more efficient and so on. And I think the key here is that we did identify where AI could be used in key parts of the process that the rest of the activities kind of wrapped around. But crucially, we did that rather than, we didn't start with, right, you want to sort out editing a podcast, let's start with what AI is out there. And so I think that's important when we talk about limitations. When we talk about how should someone go about trying it, I'm talking there about how we specifically did that with one particular process. But for a lot of people, they'll be thinking, okay, well, this sounds interesting. I'm hearing stuff about it. I want to do stuff. I'm getting some good examples. on what I can use it for, but how do I go about kind of trying this within my business without this becoming a massive derail?
Yeah, really good question. And so there's a real danger about certain people getting really excited, and essentially this becomes the next 3 months without really, as you say, it derails your other business priority. That's not what we want to do. So, firstly, don't panic. Yes, it is something that you need to pay attention to. It is something which will offer opportunities to really speed up your what you're doing in your business. Your competitors are very likely to start using this, and you're going to need to keep up. But if you're listening to this episode in January 2023 or not soon after, you are probably already well ahead of most people. It's not something that you need to solve in a day. At the same time, it's not something that you can ignore, because if you ignore it for too long, then your competitors will take advantage of it, and they'll build up ways of using it and moving faster and so on. And there are other risks to your business. Some of your services, for example, might become less valuable over time as AI is used in different ways. We're going to be covering a lot of those kind of topics in the next few episodes, going to go deep. And we've also got a webinar that we're going to be running. I think we're going to have it on February the 1st. I'll confirm. I know you're going to share a link in the moment. Yeah. But through the coming episodes of this podcast and through that webinar, we'll be taking you through how to educate yourself. So firstly, go look at ChatGPT, have a play, but there are other tools that are worth checking out, and just being aware of it. You want to understand not only what ChatGPT can do and what the other tools exist, but where is this going? Because some of these tools have gone from basically being a complete gimmick to, oh, wow, that suddenly solves my problems overnight. And that's going to be happening a lot over the next few years. So how to educate yourself, how to educate your team, how to consider the opportunities and risks it presents without derailing your current priorities. And then how to start embedding it into the way that you and your team approach business problems going forward.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that. And I think, when we started breaking this topic out, the key aim that we had was around how to make sure that this is practical. And because I think that there's there's loads of videos out there, there's guidance out there that will show you the potential for what AI can do in the future, both the wonderful and scary, frankly, that could come in the years to come. But I think that getting clear about exactly how you can start using it and whether it's appropriate to do so, I think is key. So I think as Paddy says, if you want to, if you and your team, frankly, want to learn more about artificial intelligence and how to practically use it in your business and start that process, we are running a webinar. We'll have a few, but I know that certainly there'll be one on the 1st of February to help you to do just that. It's called AI and ChatGPT, the huge opportunities and risks for small businesses and why you need to start paying attention today. And in fact, I think the scope of that, we say small businesses there, but actually the business leaders more widely, like, you need to start getting to grips with this. And in fact, we will provide some other resources as well. But to find out more and register for a series of webinars that we're running on a variety of topics, do visit www.airmanual.co/webinars. That's webinars, plural, with an S on the end. Because in addition to that AI-themed webinar, you'll find details of our of other resources and webinars that we provide, including our weekly webinar on how to free up 15 hours per week and remove the constant stress of running a business without slowing down growth. So please do check out those, have a look, and sign yourself up for one of our upcoming webinars. Do also reach out to us via social media, etc. We'd love to help in this area. We've got loads of other resources that are coming. So if this is something that you're particularly interested in or is a challenge for you, then post and do comment on our social media posts so that we can direct and give some suggested resources where needed. Otherwise, a final note for our podcast listeners. As a new podcast, we do need your help. If you found the content today valuable, please just take 1 minute to leave an honest review and also do share it on social media and so on. This will help the podcast get more visibility and help more people. Otherwise, until next time, have fun.